The highly anticipated Resident Evil series premiered on Netflix on July 14th. However, the viewers' initial reactions to the show have been mixed. Many mocked the series' dialogues and chastised the writers, wondering what they were thinking when creating it. So stay tuned to find out everything you need to know about Resident Evil, the new Netflix series, and why fans aren't too happy with the outcome. And trust us, you do not want to miss this. First up, why has Netflix's adaptation of Resident Evil been receiving questionable reviews? Rather than adapting one of the many Resident Evil games, Netflix's new live-action series tells an original story centered on new characters. The series, which is divided into two timelines, followed teenage siblings Jade and Billy as they become involved in a zombie outbreak in 2022. Simultaneously, we who follow an adult Jade in the year 2036 as she tries to survive in a world destroyed by mutant creatures. While Netflix's Resident Evil story is unique, it does its best to recycle key elements from the game franchise, such as Albert Wesker, the Umbrella Corporation, and of course, the T-Virus. Even though it has done well with critics, it appears that Netflix's new Resident Evil series is not doing well with general audiences, at least according to Rotten Tomatoes. In fact, to say that viewers simply dislike the show is an understatement. Based on early reactions, the new live-action TV adaptation of Resident Evil may be one of Netflix's worst-viewed shows in quite some time. Resident Evil has only recently arrived at Netflix. Despite this, the show is already being panned by critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Currently, the show has a dismal 22% aggregated score, placing it in a rare percentile. In comparison, the show received a 53% rating from critics. In general, audience scores that are significantly lower than critic scores are extremely rare. So, what's the deal with this low score? Well, people who aren't happy with the direction that this series has taken may very well review bomb Resident Evil's franchise as a whole. After all, the Netflix show chose a very different path with this TV adaptation than the main story seen within the popular video games, which has probably really upset long-term fans. Despite several issues with the script, some people said the show had a few redeeming qualities and was worth watching. Many people on Twitter praised actor Lance Reddick's performance in the series. The plot, writing, and direction of the series have clearly disappointed the majority of fans. Critics have also been mixed about the show, giving it mixed reviews. Have you seen the show? What do you think? What would you rate it out of 10? So, what exactly is the Netflix adaptation about? The main plot of the series is divided into two time periods, 2022 and 2036, separated by 14 years. The past plotline follows the struggles of 14-year-old fraternal twins Billy and Jade, who are the children of Dr. Albert Wesker and were conceived under suspicious circumstances. Their lives change dramatically when Albert is appointed to an executive position at the struggling Umbrella Corporation, where he previously worked, and they relocated to Umbrella's planned community, New Raccoon City. While there, the two girls discovered the dark secrets of their origins and Umbrella's dark legacy, all while their father coordinates a response to the outbreak and a retroviral bioweapon known as T-Virus. The T-Virus has reduced human civilization to 300 million refugees living in walled city-states and other settlements in the present of 2036, surrounded by 6 billion Zeros who contracted the disease and became roaming gangs of cannibal mutants. The Umbrella Corporation, backed by its military arsenal, is the most powerful organization left on Earth, and it is conducting a global manhunt for Jade. Easter eggs you most likely missed in the new Resident Evil TV show. The new Netflix show, Resident Evil, may or may not be worth watching depending on who you ask. However, one thing is certain, if you do give it a shot, there are plenty of Easter eggs buried within. So naturally, we must warn you that this might contain show spoilers, which only get worse the further we get into the list, though we've obscured some later spoilers for those who haven't gotten that far yet. Additionally, if you have a favorite Easter egg that isn't on this list or isn't listed, please let us know in the comments. Starting off, in Episode 1, the Gravedigger Worm. The version of Jade Wesker, set much further in the future, narrowly escapes a horde of zombies that chase her back to her camp in the very first episode of Resident Evil. And just as things seem to be settling down, the earth shakes and a massive, mutated arthropod erupts from the ground, presenting Jade with one final challenge. It's a scene that demonstrates the scope of the survivors' problems, but it also appears to be a reference to a previous enemy from from the games known as the Gravedigger. It was there in the original Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, and while it's not exactly the same in the show, it's a close enough mutation that it's likely this is what the creators were going for, while also doing their own thing with it. That method of interpretation will be used several times throughout the show. Episode 3, Hydra Shotgun. This is one of those that will stick with you as something you know you've seen somewhere, but can't quite place where. The tattooed, veiled character who escorts Jade and others through the sewers is armed with a weapon to fend off the Lickers in the third episode. It proves to be ineffective, but it's a neat find for Resident Evil 5 fans. The gun appears to be a Hydra shotgun, based solely on its appearance and function. This was also a prominent weapon featured in Resident Evil 5, and it was a triple-barrel shotgun that players could acquire and upgrade as they progressed through the game. Although it was never named in the show, it's a clear reference to that weapon. Next up, Episode 4 and the Chainsaw Guy. One of the best and coolest Easter eggs to find in the Resident Evil TV adaptation was a character carrying a chainsaw with a big bag over their head. It occurs in the 4th episode during a tense scene in which Jade and her reluctant partner, Baxter, are imprisoned by a cult. The Chainsaw Guy has become known over the years. It's most recognizable from Resident Evil 4, where he wears a burlap sack over his head, just like he does in the show. One significant difference is that despite the presence of zombies inside the prison, the character's coordination and responsiveness suggests that he is a person rather than a member of the undead. Still, it's one of the show's most obvious Easter eggs, but that doesn't make it any less interesting. The P-30 device in Episode 7 is another Easter egg you may have missed. Later in the episode, we see Lance Reddick's Albert Wesker requesting an update on this chest-mounted type of device. It's pretty much a one-off line that you'll miss if you're not paying attention, but given the timeline established in this scene, he appears to be referring to the P-30 device used to control Jill Valentine. This scene takes place in 2005, but we don't learn about the P-30's influence on Jill until Resident Evil 5 in 2009. Now, given the time lapse between the scene, the show in Resident Evil 5, it stands to reason that this is the device Wesker referred to. Another Easter egg, the mutated alligator in Episode 8. This creature's making an appearance in the Resident Evil show is unmistakable, but if you haven't played the previous game, it may appear even wilder than it does in Netflix's adaptation. In the show, this mutated alligator was meant to be a last resort weapon, but its first appearance in the games was quite different. In the second installment of the game turned TV series, the alligator, like the spider, was actually a result of mutations caused by Umbrella's mishandling of the T-virus. It was also discovered in Raccoon City's sewers, and it was one of the game's more unusual movements when compared to the normal zombie threats players faced. It's not the same gator as seen in the show, but the creators could have chosen any animal and still chosen an alligator, so the implications are clear. And finally, this reference in Episode 4 was easily missed. Yet another Easter egg found within the 4th episode of the Resident Evil show shows Jade finally finding peace away from the zombies. Given how dire things appear, it's not a happy moment, but it does allow viewers to notice two interesting set pieces, a safe room and a typewriter. There's also a heavy door with iron bars on the windows, which marks the safe room, which is where players can know they're safe from zombies until they venture out again. When Jade slumps in defeat, we see a brief shot of a typewriter on a desk. In previous Resident Evil games, typewriters were used to save games inside these safe rooms. And there you have it. Everything you need to know about Resident Evil, the new Netflix adaptation that seemed to have let a lot of video game fans down. Now make sure you let us know your thoughts down below. Have you watched the Netflix show yet? What did you think? Let us know, and as always, thanks for watching.